Thank you, computer. All right. Well, thanks everybody again for coming out. It's very exciting to have our elections tonight. It kind of just snuck up on us and kind of like it always does, right? So anyway, I think pretty sure most of you know me, but I'm Jenna, just in case anybody doesn't. And comms director, hopefully next year be the comms director as well. And yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say besides let's get to it. So Hayes, come on up.
All right, Hayes.
All right, can everybody hear me?
You can stand it up.
Oh, I'm gonna stand it up and I'm gonna. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to see everyone's faces and everyone on Zoom. Tonight, as you all know, we're here to have our candidate forum. And I'm really excited to see and hear from all of the wonderful candidates in the room. Fremont for Everyone is an organization that was born from the Fremont Navigation Center debate. And since then, we've coalesced into a group of housing advocates. Our mission has expanded to include unhoused advocacy, housing advocacy, anything around the issue of housing in our community. So with that, do we have a candidate list? Or how do we want to?
Well, we were saying, is there any last minute candidates? You want to declare? Yeah, you mentioned. So, yeah, we have. I don't have it written. Do you need it right?
Yeah. So I think what we can do is first we will who's just a show of hands in the room, who's a candidate this year? 5, 6, and online 1, 2, 6. Okay, 2 online and okay. So what I'll propose to do is I'm gonna just go ask one question and we'll go around the room and then we'll finish with the folks online. And then we'll go to the next question. Does that sound good?
And how much time for answer?
I think we're going for, so there's 3 questions that we wanted to ask. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 equals 16. Yeah, that's about right. 3 questions, 2 minutes each. And then I'll say, yeah, I was gonna be.
We're not giving speeches, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to, and just because I could. Probably it's easier for me to do it. So.
Interrogation? Like enhanced interrogation?
Yeah, right.
Those are jury by license.
The CIA.
8.
Okay.
Up to 8, but we elect an even number. So if there's an odd number of candidates, I could say this in my it's up to 8 people, but we elect an even number. So if there's 8 candidates, there's 8 seats. If there's 7 candidates, there's 6 seats. The idea being we have an ex officio CAMB member who's also a voting member of the team. So we want to have always an odd number on the leadership team. So we round down to the even number that's lower than the number of candidates or the same number. Okay.
So 8 is perfect.
7.
Right? Or 7.
And then the YIMBY would be the 8th.
That's to clarify, are there 8 candidates running?
There's 7. You're not running. Okay. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. So there are 7 candidates running.
Okay.
So there's 6 seats up for election this cycle.
No.
All right. So the first question I'm going to ask you is a very basic one. Just introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for the leadership role at Fremont for Everyone. So I'm going to start with Jenna.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We give you 2 minutes starting now.
So yes, my name is Jenna, and as you all know, I've been the communications director this year. And I kind of just started out at the beginning, just kind of watching, and then jumped into it fairly quickly because I have theater, choir, broadcasting skills, and so along with my communication skills and my people skills, I figured this was the best place I could fit in and put in a positive, aspect towards the group. And now that I've had a year under my belt, I'm really excited. You know, I feel like I can do much better than I did this year. And I'm just lifelong Fremont resident. It's always been, since high school, I've always wanted to do something as far as public service is concerned. And this has been a great first step, I feel. I really enjoy the people that I work with and just the stuff that I've been able to do, being the communications director from, you know, these meetings and Alex Lee's town hall. And I just, yeah, it's been a great experience. I love it so much. And hopefully next year, be communications director again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jenna. Do you want to, Lisa, do you want to?
Hi, I'm Lisa Dans. I've lived in Fremont since 2018, but I grew up in the Bay Area, so I consider myself a Bay Area native, for lack of a better word. And I've been on the Fremont for Everyone leadership team ever since a few months before we started making it an elected thing, thanks to Hayes for pulling me in. And I've largely contributed to sort of logistical, keeping the ball rolling kind of tasks. So I'm often the one who ends up, you know, sending an email that needs to be sent, or watching a schedule that needs to be watched, that sort of thing. And I'm willing to keep doing that, so that's why I'm running.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Mr. Brunson?
Hello, I'm Bob Brunton. I've lived in Fremont since 1980, and there's a lot of different reasons why I want to be part of Fremont for Everyone. You know, not only is it a great name, I hope we expand to really what it really can possibly be. You know, there are a lot of different reasons. Like I have 2 grown children who are living in Colorado because they can't afford to live. I just like a good choir needs to have different voices at the different octaves. I believe I can add to the choir by bringing in a different octave that sometimes is not always representative. I work with 2 different realtor groups, hundreds of realtors, so I understand some of the issues they are facing when we're talking about housing. I belong to mass transit groups. We're talking about, we understand how I was just yesterday down in San Jose talking with Deer Dog about how to deal with housing and mass transit in schools. So I hope to really bring an expertise and a desire to really look at housing in a very holistic way and be part of an added voice to try to fix our problems. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, Bob.
Next is Mr. David Bonacorsi.
Hey. Debut.
Thank you, Hayes. Thank you for moderating this. Hayes is one of our founding members, and we joined along with Lisa and others in the room several years ago to push for the Housing Navigation Center in Fremont. And now Fremont for Everyone has formed, which is an organization that, among other things, promotes all-inclusive affordable housing for our residents. I'm a lifelong resident. I bring 10 years on the Planning Commission, 2 years on the City Council background. I'm proud of being an attorney and an advocate. Bring that skill set to really giving voice to people that are not heard at Planning Commission meetings and at City Council meetings, and working with California YIMBY, looking for statewide legislation to empower those that cannot speak for themselves to provide the housing that we need. The reason we have homelessness is simply we do not have enough homes. It's a 40-year crisis in the making. It's going to take a lot of work to rectify this situation, and grassroots organizations like Fremont for Everyone are best positioned to be in to persuade our neighbors and our friends that we need to revisit and have a new vision for providing generational opportunities for our children. That's why I'm on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonacorsi. And finally, Gada. Oh, I'm sorry.
Finally, all
Finally
candidates in the room.
In the room. We're making great time. You can take your full 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Gada Christine Musselman Sroor. I I'm a longtime resident of Fremont, about 40 years here. Kind of grew up here, proud of the city and all of its accomplishment, but about 6 years ago, started being involved with the homelessness and issue and all the ramifications of that, and try to be as vocal as possible in support of the Navigation Center and other initiatives around the city and the work that Fremont for Everyone is doing on the policies and reviews of the state bills, what Lisa's been helping with. So I always advocated for the people who cannot advocate for themselves and support all the anything that will make housing in Fremont affordable, not only for the homelessness, but for people with low income and the elderly. So, and that's why I'm running. I have background of business. I do own 5 businesses as well as a full-time employee of corporate America for a long time, and bring to the table those skills and the relationship management, the negotiation skills that takes to facilitate bringing policies in place and new laws. So that's why I'm running.
Excellent. All right, let's go online for a moment now. The next, I believe, is Annie.
Sure. I can go next. I wish I could have joined you all in person, but alas, I am in San Diego as I am a board member of the Student State Senate of California Community Colleges, and I'm at a conference here representing that entity. And that actually leads me into wanting to talk about a bit of who I am, my perspective. I am on the younger side, bring that perspective, bring a student perspective and someone with policy experience. I've previously served on both city and school district task forces. As I said, I'm on the board of directors of the Student Senate. I am currently on the BART Accessibility Task Force, which is a transit and housing intersection, and I'm a student at UC Berkeley, very active in the campus community. I also want to talk about my past experience as a board member of Fremont for Everyone. I've been a board member since we started having board members some 2 years ago. I started as a tabling lead when we were fighting the good fight for the Housing Navigation Center. I remember our community being divided, but nevertheless us winning and justice prevailing in the end. Also recently contributed to Fremont for Everyone's comments and policy research on the housing element. I really enjoyed doing that. You may have seen me moderating the Alex Lee Town Hall, and I went to SAC for YIMBY Lobby Day a few months ago and have been proud to serve as one of our policy committee co-chairs. And last, as we go forward with Fremont for Everyone, I want to look at projects, want to look at how we expand, how we benefit the community, right? We need to bring renters in and look at renters issues. We need to look at how we make walkable, dense, and affordable cities and places all concurrently and at the same time. And we learned that through the Housing Navigation Center fight, that when we run projects, when we run campaigns, get more people involved, people get very engaged. And so I want to do that again. I want us to look for a next campaign that it makes sense for us to run, a next project, and really engage the community for just and affordable places, because I love Fremont, as I hope that you all do, and I want to make our community better. So I'm running because of my perspective, because of my past experience, and because of my vision for projects. And so with that, I humbly ask for your vote and your support.
Thank you, Annie. And last, I believe it's Catherine.
Hi, my name is Catherine, and I have lived in or around Fremont for I think about 17 years. And It is a very important city for me in all that I do. And I love this city and want to continue to be a part of it. I believe in the mission that Fremont for Everyone is doing, and I am happy to serve. Well, I've served for the last 2 years and hope to serve a third. I am running again because I have lived experience in being homeless, and I feel that that's really important in being driven and wanting to end this completely unnecessary problem. I feel like we have the resources, we just don't want to use them. So I feel like education is a really important part of this. I learned a long time ago that you should not ever complain about something unless you're willing to make suggestions or step up to the plate and do something about it. So not only do I have a lot of ideas, but I also have a lot of knowledge around the structures and attitudes around homelessness. And I am also willing to step up and do something about it in every capacity that I am able to. I hope that I can continue to be of service for the next year.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, Catherine. These are really exciting answers, and really great to see everyone running and so willing to serve. So the next question, some of you answered this a little bit in your introduction, so I'll give it a little more depth. So where do you see, so the question is, where do you see Fremont for Everyone going this next year? And if elected, how do you think we could be the most effective housing organization? How do we increase our effectiveness at, sorry, she can't hear me. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to repeat that question. I'll try to rephrase it.
Sorry about that.
No worries. It's important that you could hear it. So where do you see Fremont for Everyone going in the next year? And how do we make this organization the most effective it could possibly be? What is your vision for how Fremont for Everyone could be the best possible advocacy organization it could possibly be?
Did you want to start with the Zoom and then kind of reverse?
You want to do that? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great idea. So Catherine, I hate to put you on, maybe we should start with
Maybe we
Annie.
can start with Annie.
Yeah, Annie, would you be prepared to answer? Just mix up the order a little bit.
Sure, I'm more than happy to be thrown under the bus for the organization.
Blame her.
I believe in public transportation and buses and trains. Is everything good technologically? It looked like Lisa may have been checking something.
Making sure your picture was the big one. You're good.
Oh, got it. Time start when I start talking, question mark.
Time starts when you start talking. I'm ready.
Got it. All right. So I think that we've done quite well as an organization. We've done a lot of things in the past year, from candidate forums to contributing to the housing element, to hosting town halls, to tabling at community events. And I've been proud to be a part of many of them and contribute my talents and skills, especially around policy, to many of them. That said, I think that we need to keep doing many of the things that we're doing, but to become an even more effective organization, I'd like to see us become a bit more comprehensive and pull in groups that we may not have been intentionally pulling in before. As I said, I think that renters are a unique one. Renters have a much different relationship to their housing situation than those that own their home. And so us focusing on the intersection between housing affordability, renters issues, making sure there in fact are enough homes in our community, making sure that those homes don't sprawl out, but rather are dense, centered around amenities and public transportation, is very good. some practical ways to do that. I think that campaigns are a good way to engage people, energize people, bring people in, and build out our organizing skills to make sure that more people have those skills to organize for the things that we all believe in. I also would love to see us use our Facebook group even more. It's been a great place to collaborate, to have people talk, right? But engaging people there, as we did during the Housing Navigation Center advocacy, I believe was really effective. So we're headed in the right direction. Let's keep going there, and let's continue to build upon what we've done and build upon the advocacy that we've engaged in, the relationships that we've built, the very good reputation in the community that I believe we have, and just expand the fight for good, affordable communities for all.
Thank you, Annie. Catherine, would you be ready to start your response, or should we?
Sure.
So when you start talking, I'll start the timer.
Okay. I feel that we can, well, over the next year, I feel like we can continue getting our name known and connect with more people, more organizations, more politicians, whomever we need to connect with, educating our community, if I didn't say that already. I think we've started doing that, but I think that we can do that more through more platforms and get more detail oriented around things. I feel like education is really the big moving factor for us, and would get more votes. How can I think the last part of the question was how we can become stronger as an advocate? Was that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so I feel like one of the things that would be important is connecting with more unhoused folks and asking them how, what they would like to see, how they would like to see that come about, and get kind of from their perspective a real grasp of what they're looking for. Because I know that a lot of programs that have been tried over the decades have been put into motion and then failed because for some reason or another it failed to meet the needs of the folks that it affects the most. So I think it would be important to, connect with people who are on the ground and do maybe some survey questions or interviews or such. And of course, it comes back to the education. I think that's about all I can think of at the last minute here. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Why don't we go in reverse order from that side around the room?
Sure.
Seems fair, right? I think it's Gada. Would you? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, how do you envision Fremont for Everyone evolving to the next year and developing into a more effective organization? How do you think we should grow? How do you think?
Sure. So we've had about maybe 4 years now since it all started. I think what we need to do is take a look at what's working, what worked. What's the success? What's the rate of the rate for the navigation center, for example? Is that working? Can we expand that? How do we go from the measures that we put in place? So there's been 2 or 3 different projects already rolled out in Fremont. One is Motel 6, and one was for the I forget the name of it, but where the kitchen is in the middle, and then there are some rooms around it. I like that concept a lot. So we need to start surveying to see if this is working. Which model is working? How can it expand on that? And piggyback on what Catherine said is really good, is asking the unhoused what works for them. What's the majority like to do? Would that model work with, you know, vouchers or the housing vouchers or whatnot? The other thing that I think we need to to kind of look into, more that I think is possibly could lead to things. I know that the city planning and the city itself is run by city workers, not by actual city councils. So we can both kind of start talking to city council people to propose and bring into the city of Fremont some new ideas. But at the same time, we need to learn what the city employees are doing, what city planning folks are doing, and try to influence that. I know there's funding. We have to kind of keep pushing to find new ways and penetrate the planning perspective for Fremont, and what are the new, to roll out new programs that work that way. So there's some of the ideas that.
Mr. Bonaccorsi.
This is a terrific opportunity that continues for Fremont for everyone. We're already building on success. The HNC Housing Navigation Center, we were effective advocates, we stood strong, and we formed organically. There was a fascinating process that those of us that are on the policy committee were involved in, which was the updating of our housing element, which is a once in an 8-year process. But we attended planning commission meetings, we attended outreach meetings, we attended city council meetings. We had a direct impact with the city staff and the council in improving on it. We had a letter on our letterhead that we went through this more than several 100-page document, and had very cogent, specific comments that we made, to the point that we're now considered a subject matter expert already in the city of Fremont. That's a valuable asset that we want to build on. There is now a homelessness response plan that is on tonight's agenda. Lori Flores is with the city. We're going to meet with her, and she's working with Suzanne Shenfield. These are ways that we can help tailor the response plan to the needs of Fremont and be ambassadors to make it something that our citizens know about. So there's much we can do at the local level. Again, align ourselves with California YIMBY at the state level to improve housing for all.
Mr. President, the floor is yours.
First of all, I want to say thank you. You all make me feel welcome, you know, and I was concerned when I joined Fremont for everyone that I might run into a hostile environment. And I did, and that's good. So I'll keep saying to people that this is a great place to be, because the way to make Fremont for everyone grow is through advocacy, growing the advocates. Because housing is so holistic and so broad-based. To get the right solutions, we're going to have to get a lot of different voices into the choir. We have to get homeowners involved in this. We have to get, you know, I look at Fremont as 3 types of residents: the daytime residents, the nighttime residents, and the residents who pass through our town, right? Because the employers want good housing stock for their employees. There are people who pass through our town who might want to stop and live here because they don't want to live out in Antioch. They're working in Cupertino, but maybe they have to pass through this town to get there. So we have to figure out ways to do that. I think the thing of all the meetings we had, it was so excellent to see Alex Lee come to this event. We need to do more of those type of things, talking about solutions and ideas. I don't think we should necessarily link ourselves with YIMBY, because in a sense that unlinks you with the rest of the people. It's a good thing to say about YIMBY, but look at the others as being equally as important. Because the bottom line is we have to talk about housing. For instance, the city of Santa Clara, as an example, has a huge problem. They have schools that don't have enrollment, but they have these big houses full of people, because the fastest growing segment of homelessness is seniors. Because they're stuck with how to get their money out of their houses. So there's a lot of different things we can do and advocate for. I think we should be looking for new solutions. Tax code changes could dramatically help housing, but we never talk about that. Because when I talk to housing people, they seem to think the other side always thinks that one side thinks all solutions are high density housing with very little property next to it, so they don't have any parks, and they all have to be on a major street in a noisy area or taking over a high-priced hotel, the overpriced of a hotel. And that's that there's more answers to that, my friends, and we can advocate for this because we've got to fix this problem. Fremont, everyone, I want to do my best to bring in that different voice of the choir. We bring in some solutions to people that help go to school. Okay.
Next, Lisa.
Thanks. Hi. So as far as the vision for the next year of Fremont for Everyone, I feel like there's kind of at least two angles to talk about, right? There's how do we organize ourselves so that we're just like logistically working well as an organization. And then there's also what's our policy focus and what are we specifically hoping to accomplish with that organization. So from the how we organize ourselves perspective, I think that some things that we've been doing well for the past 2 years, we've successfully submitted position letters to the state for state bills that we want to support. And I want to make sure we do that again this year. This most recent time, we managed to do it in time to have our name on the first round of analyses, which was very cool. But one thing that happened was apparently like we were using California YIMBY to kind of send them for us, and somebody dropped the ball, and not all of them went through, some of them did. So I think one of the things I want to do is make sure at least one of us has access to do that. So just kind of like ironing out the logistical details. Another logistical detail I want to iron is how we advertise our meetings and making sure that folks know, you know, in advance, and that we have a process that we can be consistent about, because I struggle with being consistent. I think we've had some struggles with getting the word out so that we would have the audience and build that capacity. I've talked about logistics for more than half my time, so let me talk about policy. I am unapologetically YIMBY. I'm wearing the shirt, and I think that we need more housing. We need more housing across all income spectrums. It needs to be more affordable to build housing, but it's more affordable to live in housing. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. I want to do a deep dive, you know, not just this year, but starting soon on things like zoning, because I think that that's something that the city hasn't had the political will to touch that could make a difference. It's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to switch seats because I'm walking.
Oh yeah, no problem. So like everybody here, policy and everything I think is fantastic. I think that's the crux of what this group is about. Now, I would be lying if I'm saying I'd be an expert in policy or zoning. It's not really my strength. I've been studying it and learning more about it, but social outreach is my thing. I am big on getting communities involved and knowing what's going on. A lot of times you talk to people and they're super frustrated just because they don't really know what's going on. And it's so complicated. And there's so many different things that get involved with just trying to educate people on policy. And they're like, well, we don't see much progress, period. You know, there's tents here, this, and that. People are very much just, they see what they see and then they go by that. And so I would love to have any kind of more town hall events, whether we're talking with builders, we can have a town. I know this is a lot for us. We're a volunteer group and we can only do so much, but I would love to do multiple town hall events, not just with politicians, but chief of police. We can get people to come in, wherever it would be, have them give a presentation on how they deal with the unhoused, and then people to be able to give a Q&A, right? And then yada, 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 developers and politicians, of course. And I just think that we were stuck on Zoom for so long, and especially from the beginning of this project, you know, it was really all about trying to get our feet under us and trying to figure out where exactly we're going to go with influencing policy. And sometimes I think the community kind of gets left out a little bit. They don't really know much about what we're doing. And it's hard for me sometimes to tell people too, like, what do you do? I'm like, well, we're kind of like a gap between the private and the public sector and yada, yada, yada. And so I just think overall in general, if we could just get more events where people can get more involved and learn more, it doesn't have to be a whole lot but just give them some stuff to where they feel like they're a little bit more involved. I think I could go a long way. So that's what I would like to focus on in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just have one more question, and then we'll do a quick Q&A for anyone who might have questions for the candidates. I will do 1 minute each on those, like we did last year. So the last question has to do with your own personal passions and contributions to the organization. So the question is, what kind of skills, experience, or personal, personal passion do you bring to your specific role on Fremont for Everyone? I know some of you already answered this. Lisa saying that she keeps the big stuff running. The question's in the spirit of that, but it's more about your personal passion, where you really want to jump in and move this organization forward. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
And should we go back the other way?
No, I can go.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you don't mind? Okay.
No, I don't mind. Me talking in front of
You
people?
can talk. Yeah, all right.
Well, it's like I said at the beginning, in my, what I'm all about kind of speech. Like I said, I was in theater and choir all of high school, being in front of people and being able to use my skills to influence people is what motivates me the most, probably. When I'm in front of a crowd, I enjoy the energy that it brings. And so anything I found when I was doing Alex Lee's town hall or hosting these events, this is where I felt most alive, and this is where I felt like I was most helpful. I'm also a big organizer. Not like super big, but I enjoyed putting things together and making sure things are on time. This is not, I don't always get to it, I know. But sorry, what was the crux of the question again?
Oh, what's your passion?
Oh yeah, my passion, yeah. So I think it's probably a mix between those two things. Most people don't like getting up and speaking in front of people. That's what I love to do the most. And so anything that involves with me communicating with the public, well, doing work behind the scenes as well, but like being the public face of the group in whatever capacity that could be, that I feel is my biggest strength and what I can bring the best to this group. So.
Great. Lisa Dance.
So I'm gonna say, since I was talking about how I do a lot of sort of random behind the scenes logistical work, what I would love to do is build a capacity for more people to be willing to do that and build up structures so that it's sort of a little more like planned who's gonna do what when. I don't know for sure if we're gonna achieve that and how it's gonna work, but I would love to have a way that the process sort of flows and I think we've gotten better at this. Like we have a standing meeting now where we finalize our agenda a week before this meeting, and that has been really helpful. And we have this meeting that has, I think, been really helpful. We didn't have this a year ago. So I think we can continue to iterate on our structures so that we get kind of the details worked out. And I'd love to bring more people into that process and figure out how do we make that happen. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm actually passionate about the policy work. It's just that I feel like I see this as the means to that end, and so I want to figure out how to make that happen. And yeah, as far as policy passions, I would say I did mention zoning before. I think I'm still learning, but I'm learned a lot more than where I was a couple years ago, and I am seeing that more and more as one of the big levers that we really have. That is, especially when it comes to local policy, right? And I think I'm really passionate about climate change, and I see housing policy as one of the biggest levers that local communities have in addressing climate change, because there's a lot of things, like a carbon tax, you can't do that at the local level. You do that hopefully at the national level. I am advocating for that and have been for years, but that's not a thing you do at the city level. At the city level, we can bring more people into our community and make it denser so that people have less vehicle miles traveled, so that people can move here from climates where they would have to run their AC and heat all year round. That's all part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. The next, sorry, Mr. Brunson. Oh, the question is, where are your passions and what kind of specific skill sets do you bring to the role, and how do you mesh into the larger team?
My father was a city manager. And so as a toddler, I mean, I've been working on, I would do zoning things with my father. And he had several great cities that he helped build in Elgin, Illinois, and Fort Collins, Colorado, and finally Phoenix, Arizona, which was ranked as the best run big city in America at the time he was city manager. And I helped with him, for instance, they had the largest Habitat for Humanity complex in Phoenix. He was able through sales tax reform to get the larger cities, the expensive cities like Tempe and Scottsdale to help the city of Phoenix. And I look at these types of things that we could be doing here in Fremont. My background, as you know, is in finance, electronics, and architecture. Think about that as a weird thing, huh? And 3 times elected as a politician, community college trustee. And these passions I'm just frustrated because I've seen my wonderful city not progress the way I'd like it to be when I moved here in 1980. And I'm sick and tired of the discourse, and we're not making any progress. So everything I do, and my passion, you guys all know, I mean, I keep running for political office because our politicians aren't willing to do it, or the current politicians are exactly the same as everywhere else. So they bring in nothing new. So it is a fact. So my passions is I am going to do everything I can to expand this group, connect this group, look for solutions from this group, and because we have a lot of things. The CARES court that's coming, it's going to be an interesting thing how that's going to help in the homeless. We need to have discussions on that. The major mass transit reforms are going to how that's going to affect school choice. That's how that's going to affect. So these are all good things. And I have the courage to do it, and I'm not owned by anybody. So that's cool, so I'm just trying to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go for it.
All right, gotta go.
You
You gotta go.
You gotta go.
Not at all. My passions is to help the poor, help the people that are not able to help themselves. And that's always been in my blood since I was little. So that drives in a lot of what I do, especially when it comes to not having a home. I was a product of Civil War, and for a short term, my family was homeless, and we basically slept on a 2 mattress in my grandma's living room. 6 kids on 2 mattresses for quite like 3 months until we found a replacement home. So I think there are always solutions, and I always look for solutions and to help people out. So that's kind of my passion, what drives me to want to run and to want to do make a difference, basically. The other thing is the passion is I want to kind of piggyback on what the gentleman was saying, is that it seems like the city council and the city itself is being conservative in terms of what they can and cannot do. It's been political, whatever political environment. So my passion is to break down, try these barriers and try to have the city council or planning commissions or city managers kind of break out of their routine and their way of stuck doing business because this is how it's been, or they're afraid no one's going to vote for them. So that's kind of also another passion, is to try to break down the barriers to make the change easier to implement. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bonacorsi.
Last but least.
Well, in person.
Yeah.
My father came to Fremont in 1961 to become a teacher at Washington High School in what was then known as the Washington Union School District before Fremont Unified. He was a son of Italian immigrants and was able to go to Cal Berkeley on the GI Bill of Rights. And so my narrative growing up was one person was able to afford a new home. We lived in a beautiful planned community called Fremont, which was a suburban area that was formed from 5 towns, and it was a model of planning. I grew up with a basic, as a cradle Catholic, a basic passion for the dignity of every individual, and that's been informed by my Buddhist understanding the last 20 years that it's informed with community. But in the last 5 to 10 years, even after I was on the 10 years on the city planning commission and 2 years on the council, I have become educated that same planned city was based on exclusionary zoning. Who do we exclude? So I concur with what Lisa's saying. It's been an instrument of de facto segregation across this country. And so we needed to redefine what it means to affirm the individual, empower everyone in community, and make this a Fremont for everyone. That's my passion. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, let's go to Annie. Are you ready?
Sure.
Right.
So as one of your policy committee co-chairs, I hope you can tell that I am very, very passionate about policy and the creation of new policy that ensures that we have accessible communities, right? I understand that if the rules which govern the creation of communities don't change, the ways in which our communities are built, the amenities which our communities have, are not going to change. And so I bring some experience here in housing policy, yes, but also in other policy types, from LGBTQ policy to education policy to environmental policy. And that brings some transferable skills that I hope to use in furtherance of this organization and in furtherance of our shared values. I'm also very, very passionate about community engagement. I concur that community education is quite important. Many people don't understand the complexity of housing policy. Many people are misinformed about the ways in which our communities are built because it is very, very, very complicated. And so engaging the community oftentimes does mean educating the community. At the end of the day, right, I'm passionate about inclusive communities, communities where people understand how they're built, communities that include people of all income types, people of all races, people of all sexualities, right? And I see our job as advocating for the creation of good communities. Oftentimes that does mean, right, the creation of new housing. Many people want to move here, and housing is too expensive because we just, at the end of the day, do not have enough units, right? More units are going to make our community better, but also building mixed use, right? Communities are going to make our communities better. Also building sufficient affordable housing is going to make our communities better. Also making sure that we have enough protections for renters and homeowners alike so they can stay here will make our communities better. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's where I want Fremont for everyone to go.
And finally, Catherine, if you please.
My chicken scratch might not be readable even to me.
Oh.
All right, so I feel like the skills that I bring to the table are perspective from a home and property owner, a renter, and someone who has been homeless. I feel like I am well educated in research techniques, knowing what is valid, knowing how to write really well, and knowing how to put myself in someone else's shoes. My experience includes speaking in front of others, being able to clearly express ideas, work as a team, and even stepping up as a leader when it is appropriate in certain situations. And being able to discuss a logical course of action while also being able to appeal to the emotions of others. And my passions would include once you experience homelessness, you never want that to happen again. And you definitely are passionate about ending that situation, not only for yourself, but others, because you just see so much suffering. I am deeply passionate and concerned about the well-being of others, including safety and comfort, and basic needs being met at the very minimum, which would include, food, clothing, housing, a place to bathe, a place to keep your clothes clean, a safe environment, the list goes on, including recreation, like playing games with your family or keeping your family together. And I can't read the last of it, so we'll look at that.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, so thank you very much for sharing about yourselves and telling us a little bit more about you and your vision. This is really exciting to hear. At this point, I just want to get a check from everybody. We're about at 7 o'clock right now. Do we want to go into Q&A? No, right? I think everyone's heard enough. There's
I have a question. I know you don't want to Q&A.
I was just thinking of time.
I know, if you don't want, then that's okay, I can bug you on.
Can I do a short list of announcements? Q&A is okay?
I mean, I don't find anywhere to go, but if other people do,
Well, we usually go to 7:30, so
that's true, yeah.
I don't think we have more than 5 to 10 minutes.
So why don't we do quick 45-second responses for this question? Would that be fair? Okay, just one question and then I think we're gonna move on.
So as all of you know, I'm stepping down and giving my baton to you guys. And you, if you have heard me speak in past 2 candidate forums, you know what I'm passionate about. My passion is about families. And that is, I think there is a big gashing hole. However, my question is, how do you plan to fill that gashing hole about families who are either homeless or at the verge of getting homeless? What is your vision about not letting that happen and doing more towards families and kids?
Oh,
I know, I gave you all the answers.
All right.
If you don't answer, then that's something that you should be concerned about.
All right, so everyone online understands the question, has heard the question. Okay, so the question was, what can you do about homeless families and how do you respond to their needs, right? Homelessness as it affects families. So I'm gonna do this as a lightning round. It's gonna be just 45 seconds each. Catherine, would you like to start since you're already?
Sure. I have known of people who have lost their children when they became homeless, and their jobs because they weren't able to do both. Either they're leaving their kids behind during the day in the car while they go to work, or they're having to stay with your kids and not work, and it becomes impossible to do both. Eventually, the needs of the kids start suffering. And depending on the family structure, how many kids, what resources you have, depends on how fast and how quickly those resources deteriorate. It's heartbreaking. And there's no easy answer. I know that when these kids go to school, they're often teased because they come to school in the same clothes or dirty clothes. They smell because they didn't have an opportunity to bathe. They're hungry, they're not paying attention, they're stressed out, their behavior problems, all kinds of things. I think the first thing would be for school administrators could potentially be the first people to notice and know about the situation and be able to connect the family to an agency or organization that could assist this family in finding a safe, temporary means of living until they can find more permanent housing. I don't think Fremont has any homeless shelters, so I think one of those things, a homeless shelter for families would be a good thing to have. I know when I experienced homelessness, there was no shelters for couples. We would have been separated.
Catherine, thank you.
And so,
Hello?
yeah.
So thank you, Catherine. I have to move on for your response. Thank you very much. Annie?
Sure. So the best thing to do in my view, right, is to prevent people from becoming unhoused in the first place by ensuring that housing is affordable, by ensuring that there are sufficient services should someone become addicted, should someone have mental health problems, right? So stopping the problem before it begins is ideal. But when families do become homeless, we need to make sure that our services support families. To the best of my understanding, our navigation center does not accept kids under 18. Our safe parking program does not accept kids under 18. And so that creates really desperate situations for our unhoused families, right? So first, want to make sure that housing's affordable, make sure that our services are, make sure that there are services there. And when people become unhoused, make sure that services are culturally competent and accepting of families.
Thank you very much for that answer. Let's move to, is it Gada or would you like to? It's about how do you help unhoused families?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, one thing about our culture is that we're not tight, fit families that support. Western civilization is kind of that way. Where I come from, people take, you're in the family, you take in your cousin, you take in your, everybody kind of lives together. Family, definitely having services provided by the city that include kids is navigation center, they need to include kids. The safe parking program needs to include kids. Where are they? They are in RVs and encampment center by Niles. That's where all the kids are. So with their families, so in unsafe conditions. So we need to have new programs that specifically centered around the family, keeping the family together. As simple as opening up a park and renting RVs and having people live in RVs temporarily.
Thank you so much. David?
I was on the board of directors for Abode Services for 4 years and was board vice president. And they're state of the art. And one of the things that they do with families is has rapid rehousing, because once you become unhoused, the longer you're unhoused, the more time it takes to get back into housing. So we have to identify more sites for people that are being displaced. I agree with what Gada was saying about expanding safe parking in the HNC. But I would also expand McKinney-Vento at the school district level to provide opportunities, not only providing educational opportunities, but to expand the program to provide the needed housing so our children are not unhoused.
Thank you. Mr. Balgun.
Thank you for the question. One of the major reasons why I'm running for state assembly, because housing needs leadership from Sacramento. Too often it's being focused on the cities. If you're homeless, where do you really belong? I mean, cities are doing whack-a-mole with the housing issue. That get out of my city, don't put this RV park near me. I mean, everything is about it. There's all this NIMBYism of everything about move them around. And in Fremont too, they don't give hardly any services to families, but that, and in Milpitas, they were mad as heck about, they were doing Project Home Key next to the school. They said, gee, wouldn't that be a great place to put kids and families so they could be close to their school? But no, they didn't do that because of extremely bad leadership out of Sacramento. And our currently assembly member is certainly anti-family. He's certainly not doing things to bring in families. And we need to put the priorities and bring in our families, taking care of our children. About the loving way. So that's what I plan to do.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, when with you.
So I agree that the safe parking program should expand to include a site that can accept children. That's sort of been on our roadmap for a while, and we've back to, you know, keeping our logistics going and following through on what we are hoping to do. I think that's something that we should try to get done. I'm not sure if the Housing Navigation Center is the right place just because the space is the open plan, and I don't think that would necessarily be comfortable for families. I remember when that program was being discussed, the city actually said that families with children were already sort of better at accessing resources and better at accessing shelter than others. And from what you all are saying, I'm not sure if that's true anymore. So that's something that I need to educate myself about. I'll be upfront about that. And I agree with what Annie said, that we need to make housing more affordable so that families aren't experiencing homelessness in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, you know, I'm going to take a little bit from what everybody has said. I think that we need to be able to stop the unhoused from becoming unhoused before it actually happens. I think that preventative actions are some of the best solutions that we can have. I am, you know, this may be a little bit touchy to people. I'm agnostic now, but I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian household. And at least with my parents and a lot of other religious people, the tenets of the message of Jesus was to always be community oriented. And I think maybe if we can find some way to like hybrid programs with churches, I think would be a fantastic opportunity. We have a lot of these big churches here in Fremont, and a lot of them are just, they use the buildings for like worship centers and stuff, and that's great. But why can't they be public services to bring people in who are struggling? Because that's what Jesus would always preach, right? So I don't know, maybe these are just ideas that I'm thinking of. Like maybe reach out to churches. I don't know if there's a separation of church and state thing, but give them a little bit of a tax break, kind of an incentive to build these programs. That's just one of the, you know, but I would love to see more community-oriented programs like that put emphasis on families, because families are the building blocks of society, right? So I think maybe we could start to look in areas like that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So that does it for our candidate forum for this year. And we believe that this recording will be available for people online eventually. And so we're going to go to our regular scheduled program of the meeting.
You may want to mention the vote is 20 right now. Okay.
Oh.
The election is from the 20 to the 29th.
22nd to 29th.
Yes, tell people about that.
Voting opens tomorrow. Watch your email.
Yes.
Yeah, so everyone heard that. The voting will start tomorrow and last one full calendar week.
That's right.
And it'll close, and then the results are the results. So please vote and watch your email from Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.